Hello people, I'm Tommy, and the Pokemon franchise has seemed to have a very turbulent history. With every new installment there seems to be something that fans hate, and those games are considered terrible until we all look back 10 years later and say that those games were great. So let's talk about something that no one has an opinion on. When it comes to Pokemon, the very last thing people want to talk about is what happened on December 16th, 1997. But the second last thing is the Pokemon openings. From Generation 1 to 9, every game has had at least a title screen to stare at, so I'll be looking at each of these and ranking them to the best of my ability to see how well they show off their respective games. Some are great, some are lazy, and some are Scarlet and Violet. So let's go to the very beginning, starting with Pokemon Red, Blue, and Green are very simple. When you're attempting to cram 151 different monsters into a Game Boy, there's gonna be some corners that need to be cut. The fact that this broken-ass game even has the ability to display a Pokemon battle in the opening is a feat in it of itself. You see a Gengar fighting a Nidorino, or a Jigglypuff if you're playing blue version, and then it immediately cuts to the title screen with different Pokemon sprites sliding onto the screen. It shows a multitude of Pokemon, and visually, you are getting what's being shown here. There's no story shown, but I think that's simply asking too much of the Game Boy, so a solid C tier. It sets up the bare minimum of what a Pokemon opening should be. Pokemon Yellow is an improvement. Sure, it shows less Pokemon, in fact it shows only one, but you gotta remember, this is the Special Pikachu edition, so he's the only one that needs to be included. I like the different scenes of Pikachu doing things as he runs up to the screen, especially the surfing scene, because you can actually do that in the game. But what makes this one stand out compared to Red, Blue, and Green is that Pikachu talks. It's not the most crisp dialogue, but it was the 90s, so this is probably one of the best pieces of video game voice acting of that era. B tier. In the past, I've talked very badly about the second generation of Pokemon, and my opinion hasn't changed since I still don't think these games are fun to go back to. But if there's one thing that Gold and Silver do phenomenally, it's these openings. The Shellder, the Lapras, Pikachu running into Jigglypuff, and then Charizard doing a Fire Blast as the Johto starters appear, which all leads into the box art legendary Soaring the Skies or Diving in the Sea with the best rendition of the Pokemon theme song in the background. I really like this one. My only complaint is that it shows mostly Pokemon from just Generation 1, but the next game, Crystal, fixes that. An all-new intro that shows the Unknown, a Pichu and Wooper, and Suicune running in the forest. It's really good, but for some reason, Suicune is just running in the void on the title screen. The Generation 2 openings are really good with only very nitpicky flaws, so they all get an A tier. Ruby and Sapphire slap. Both show different environments of the Hoenn region, as Ruby shows off the land and Sapphire the water. We see Latios and Ruby, and Latias and Sapphire. Then there's an incredibly one-sided Pokemon battle, and then the Magma Red surrounding Groudon, and the Aquatic Blue around Kyogre. They look pretty and show off the vastly different biomes located in Hoenn. A tier. Next up is Fire Red and Leaf Green. And these ones are kinda lame. It shows Gengar fighting a Nidorino, and then title screen. This was okay back in Generation 1 because of hardware limitations, but Game Freak could have done so much more with the power of the Game Boy Advanced. Yes, it does the bare minimum, but I'm gonna have to rank it right below the original games. Pokemon Emerald is fucking awesome. You got the similar opening to Ruby and Sapphire, now with the addition of way more Pokemon, plus Torchic falling. Then it shows Groudon and Kyogre, which is foreshadowing to the fight later in the game, and then, oh shit, the sky gets clouded, and we see the silhouette of Rayquaza as he shines yellow and attacks. Oh my god, it's really cool, and the title screen is green, and green is awesome. S tier. Now, in the DS era, Diamond and Pearl take 1 foot forward while also taking 2 steps back. This opening uses actual gameplay footage of the towns and routes in the game, which is nice looking, but then you see the front-facing avatar characters, and they are gross. You see your rival Barry at some point with the Sinnoh starters, and then flash to Mount Coronet where there's a diamond or pearl as it cuts to the title screen. Yeah, this one's kinda boring. I don't think it's terrible. The depiction of Dialga and Palkia are really cool on this title screen, but there's not much else to say, so B tier. So Diamond and Pearl's openings sucked just as much as their actual games do, which means if my calculations are correct, Platinum's will be really good. And it is. Just like the previous games, there's a shot of the towns and routes of Sinnoh, but this time, there's a looker jump scare. The outfits for the playable characters make them look slightly less hideous, different evolution stages of the starters appear, but the biggest thing this opening does is show the main villain. This is the first time an evil team shows up in any of the intros to a Pokemon game, and then it fades into Giratina as it teases the Distortion world, before we get the coolest looking title screen in the franchise. Platinum does everything really well, and it's really hard to choose if it does anything better than Emerald's opening, but they are both sharing the top of S tier. Heart Gold and Soul Silver take what Platinum did and smack a Johto theme onto it. Ho-Oh and Lugia fly in as we see the remade world of Generation 2, a flyover of different settings, the rival, the legendary dogs, a Ucene jump scare, the evil team, starters, Suicune in the corner high, and then for the first time in Pokemon history, the box art legendaries are no longer a shadow. Except for remakes, we would never see the mysterious silhouette effect for any of the box art legendaries in any new Pokemon game, which is kinda lame because it made them look cool. Anyway, this intro is based on Platinum's, so it's really good, but I do find it to be slightly inferior, so low S tier for this one. The very beginning of Black and White's openings are very cool, as it features N becoming the king of Team Plasma. You see all these characters and it sets up a lot of intrigue for the game you're about to play. And then it kinda just completely falls off after that. You see, similar to Generation 4, Black and White uses gameplay footage as part of its intro, but it just looks awful. It shows off a pretty good amount of Pokemon, but its use of words just makes it look crappy. Hopes, dreams, discoveries, Reshiram and Zekrom. It has such a strong start, but it just doesn't stick the landing. B tier. Even though Black 2 White 2 doesn't have a scene as strong as the beginning of the first Black and White, I think these games do the whole introduction to Unova thing way better. Playable characters, starters, new things in the game, evil team, rival, colorous jump scare, legendaries, Kyurem walking towards us, title screen. It's quick, it gets the point across, and it doesn't rely on gameplay footage. Black 2 White 2 have an opening that's consistently pretty good, unlike the previous games that fumble after the first act. A tier. I don't have to be biased about my first Pokemon games, because I think X and Y have a piss-poor intro. X and Y start the trend of games starting up at the title screen, and then you having to wait to get the actual scene to play, which is kinda stupid and kinda defeats the purpose of having an opening. Once it does start playing, it shows off that these games are indeed in the third dimension. Pokemon Ami, character customization, and Mega Evolutions appear, and that's about it. It gets a C tier because it is lame. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire are certainly an improvement over both X and Y and the original Ruby and Sapphire. These games show off Mega Evolution way better and display both evil teams. There is some callbacks with Latios or Latios flying over the Avatar character, and having Primal Groudon and Kyogre be shrouded in mystery on the title screen. This one's a solid A tier, but it lacks the sauce to be an S tier. It seems the more I dislike a Pokemon game, the better these openings are. Unless you're the Hoenn games, because they have 0 flaws. I have been a Generation 7 hater since day one. I hated these games when I was 13, and I still do because my ignorance and laziness refuses to let me replay them. But if we're talking about just the openings, then holy hell are these things beautiful. It does do the same thing X and Y did with the title screen starting first, which sucks, but when you've got what is probably the greatest title screen in the franchise up there with Platinum, that can be forgiven. The way everything is presented, from the starters to the islands of Alola, Totem Pokemon, regional variants, and Z-moves, it all looks really good. And then Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon come in and go even harder on everything, showing off Ultra Beasts surfing the seas, and the ending shows Necrozma taking control of Solgaleo or Lunala, and it cuts back to the title screen. It is very awesome. If there's one thing the Sun and Moon games did great, it was these openings. If only there was a good video game in here. S tier. Now, looking at the tier list, nothing has gotten worse than a C tier, because up until now, everything has had something to look at, something to view, and there were Pokemon present. Unfortunately, we now enter a very dark time for this extremely specific subject. Because Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee is just one of the two walking in a field. These discussions are about to go by really quickly since Game Freak decided to stop caring. D tier. Sword and Shield do something very cool. They show your team on the title screen. That's great, but that's it. D tier. Radiant Diamond and Shining Pearl, it's the same as Diamond and Pearl, but now in 3D, and the playable characters don't scare me. Like Fire Red and Leaf Green, it's not very original, but at least they did something. High C tier. And finally, we arrive at this moment. The worst timeline. Pokemon Legends Arceus doesn't even show a Pokemon on screen, which was the bare fucking minimum to get a D, and it failed. At least Legends Arceus is a good game, but for this ranking, F tier. Scarlet and Violet are so special. They just can't seem to get anything right. How did it come to this? How do you do worse than Legends Arceus? Because at least Legends Arceus had something to look at. This is nothing. Well, it's something. It feels like I'm staring into a void of nothingness. I hate this. Like, in all honesty, the second I'm done with this video, I'm gonna go back to never thinking about a single one of these openings ever again. But Scarlet and Violet and their lack of care makes this so incredible. G tier. And that is every mainline Pokemon opening as of now. Maybe in the next 50 years, these will all be considered amazing because we Pokemon fans consume slop that gets worse and worse every year. Bye!